I wanted to shoot this short video this morning to say goodbye, so long, and wish my badass bitch in charge, the great LeeAnn Brennan, nothing but the very best moving forward with her next challenge, her next world building challenge. LeeAnn and I have worked together as a team now for a handful of years. I'm sure she feels dog years, every year, 7 times. But I would be remiss if I didn't take the time to talk about all of the incredible value she has brought to this new company for myself and also for my business partner, Marc-Andre LeBlanc. Dan Kennedy, the great Dan Kennedy, always said when it came to employees, everybody eventually goes lame. And that's a horse term because he's a guy from Dan owns 30 different horse racing term. And there's so much of that's true. I've had employees that have worked for me for 5 years, 10 years, 12 years, who all of a sudden went, as Kennedy would say, they went lame. In other words, they went from all in to all out, and you have to make a change. But that was not the case with LeeAnn. In fact, when LeeAnn tendered her resignation 2.5 weeks ago, she was, to her credit, good morning, she was at the very top of her business game. I hired LeeAnn a few years ago after my last executive assistant and marketing director, Linda Bartlett, had also resigned. This has been part of my life for as long as I've been in business, the last 20 years. I've always had an incredible executive assistant marketing director. In fact, I've told the story many times that I could not exist without an outstanding executive assistant, a person who closes loops. I'm a loop opener. I come up with ideas. I'm the idea guy. I'm the promotional guy. I'm the sales guy. I'm the marketing guy in any business I'm part of. Well, when you're that guy or you're that gal where you're a loop opener, here's a great idea. Let's do this. You need somebody who's your equal in terms of loop closing. You're one of two things, and if you're watching this video, you're most likely a loop opener. And if you're a loop opener, an entrepreneur, a small business owner, a salesperson, a builder, then you need an incredible loop closer in your world. And that's what LeeAnn Brennan was. She's a loop closer. I come up with 13 ideas in a day, or I come up with 7 ideas in a day, or I come up with 11 things to add to her list. Her entire job was multitasking. Admittedly, I am the worst multitasker in the world. That's a huge, huge whiff for me in terms of I'm no good when I'm multitasking. If I multitask, I'm doing a whole bunch of things and none of them well. But there's 2 types of people in business. There's people that need to do one thing at a time. That's me, that's you, that's usually the loop opener, that's usually the entrepreneur, that's usually the marketer, the salesperson. But you gotta have incredible loop closers in your world. And what LeeAnn was able to do is, as soon as I would open up a loop in the day, whether it's picking up dry cleaning, or whether it's handling this situation, getting the truck fixed, it could be marketing related, sales related. She just finished driving from Canada to Naples with our dog Clifford, who isn't able to fly anymore. So as an example of the life that she lives in business, I just said to her one day by email, are you up for a trip to Naples? And she's the type of person, well, you know, it's a 30-hour drive with your dog. I'll bring my husband, and within a couple of days, she's like, I'll take care of it. And so, you know, we arrived here in Naples 3 weeks ago, and we meet LeeAnn in the airport at Fort Myers, and her husband are flying home to Canada. So we literally met in the airport seating area, and she took a couple extra days here to decompress and enjoy the warm weather. But that's what an executive assistant does in my badass world. People ask me all the time when it comes to executive assistants, like, what does she do? What did Linda used to do? What did Stephanie used to do? What did Marc-Andre do when he was filling that role for a few months? And what did LeeAnn do? Well, she learned this over the first few weeks of working together. Whatever I wake up with and whatever is on my mind when my eyes open in the morning is what she's doing. And that's the life, that's the reality of working with a loop opener. I wake up, I come up with an idea when I'm reading or I'm out walking or I'm doing some copywriting, and it's pretty simple in my world. It either becomes Marc-Andre's responsibility, which is technology, some marketing, copywriting, or it falls onto LeeAnn's plate. But I'm not going to do anything that doesn't bring us money. So I'm the guy who's always writing, shooting videos. I'm the rainmaker. In the barber shop, I was the rainmaker. In the insurance business, I'm the rainmaker. In the window washing business, I'm the rainmaker. In this business, the coaching and consulting business, I'm the rainmaker. So no matter what business I'm in, the hockey business, I'm the rainmaker. My job is to bring the company money every single day. Sales, 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 sales. And Marc-Andre and LeeAnn close loops. So it's really interesting because it's a life lesson as an entrepreneur, because as much as I'm sad to see LeeAnn leave our team, I can fully understand her decision. You know, when you wear bracelets that say be relentless, and you read books that are titled Relentless, and you call yourself yours relentless, and you work for a person like myself, and to a degree a person like Marc-Andre, it's exhausting over time. It's mentally and physically exhausting over time because there's no off season. I remember NHL Stanley Cup coach Claude Julien, who lives about 10 minutes from us in Canada, and Claude coached the Boston Bruins to the Stanley Cup about 10 years ago, and he was home for the summer fishing, and he said to me, he goes, Michael, as much as the NHL is the ultimate grind, to win a Stanley Cup with Boston that year, they had to play something like 119 games. And he said, you have no idea the grind with the travel, the injuries, the mental fatigue. He said to win it, we had to put the skates on 119 times. But he said to you, I'll tell you this. He says, as difficult as it is to be an NHL coach, an NBA coach, even an NFL or college coach, he says, at least you have an off season. At least, you know, no matter how much the grind has taken its toll, even a guy like, you know, Nick Saban took, you know, the month of July for family. And no matter how demanding professional coaching can be, college coaching, he said, at least we have an off season. He said, you know, most summers after the NHL season, he says, I have like 3 months off, which is a lot. He goes, it's a chance for me to reconnect with my wife, my children, to get in better shape, and just to take a breather. The thing about being my badass bitch in charge, is year after year, there's no breather. Sure, you get some vacation days and things like that, but it's for a person who doesn't need a lot of breathers. Like, it's relentless. Like, everybody talks about being relentless, but you know what? Being relentless means there's a cost, there's a price to pay, and it's a lot of the people around you who will pay that price. Now, when I hire somebody like LeeAnn, she knew exactly what she was signing up for, and I believe that, you know, she would do it again in a second for the experience, because her personal growth and her growth as she's an entrepreneur. She runs her own corporate office cleaning business, Meticulous Cleaners. She knew exactly what she was signing up for. And I'm sure early on she had lots of self-doubts. I'm sure that, you know, there's lots of people in her life are like, are you crazy? And then she starts doing the job and there's more of that doubt. But it was amazing. After the first couple of months, we really got in sync together, where I would communicate with her by email every day, all day. And she really got into the flow. She really got the job down. She started to invent the job, the position, and whatever was on my mind that day was her job. And her time management skills went right through. I mean, she scaled all of that. She became much more productive. She became much more valuable in terms of her time. She built relationships with people like yourself. She attended all of our mastermind trainings, but she really, really took her life, her fitness, her health, her role as a leader of her family, her marketing skills, her copywriting skills. She took all of that to the next level, because she's a coachable person and she's an entrepreneur. She's got the dreamer's disease, like my dad says. So she thrived in our environment. Like, I used to send her newsletters. I'd send her the great Matt Fury's 2 newsletters, and she would write book reports. I'd get her to read books like Winning and Relentless, and she learned about all of this almost secret society. Nobody knows, you know, about direct response. Nobody knows about our type of marketing and sales. So she literally walked into a totally private, almost secret society. And I remember LeeAnn saying to me when she started, she says, I've never seen advertisements like these. I've never seen marketing like this. I've never seen any of this stuff. And she says it's almost the exact opposite of what I've learned in the past being a consumer. So I'm very, very proud of how she grew as a person. First of all, she did the 500 Hindu squats with us on Christmas. Bill Gaw, Paul Nolte, Mark Andre did 1,000. I did them too. But she wasn't afraid to take on any challenge, and she's in the best physical shape of her life right now, and I hope that continues for her. She did the 500 Hindu squats on New Year's Eve, and you know, she just decided in the last year to get in the best physical shape of her life, and she did it. She's a diabetic who now she's cut her medicines, her prescriptions almost down to nothing by clean eating and moving. And it's just amazing to see a person, because I give her all the credit. The big thing is she was around it all the time. She was around winning. When you're attending masterminds with Bill Gaw and Stephen Ivanko and David Linton and Paul Nolte, you're gonna be affected by the people you hang out with. But I do give her all the credit for execution. She was immersed for the last few years in winning. No excuses, no complaining. But she wasn't just an employee. She was like, I'm gonna use my job to take my life to the next level. And she did. And she provided men like you, some women with just outstanding client service. Now you can't get anybody on a phone. You can't get anybody to return your emails. You know, everybody's a chicken shit hiding behind technology. But I got to tell you, I mean, every day LeeAnn went to bat for our clients. You needed one of the telegrams emailed, it was done. You had a service issue, she took care of it. And she did all this stuff without me ever being involved in it. And one of my secret weapons with working with executive assistants is at the end of the day, LeeAnn had to send me her 10 or 15 things that she achieved. And the reason I've always done this with staff is at the end of the day, it shows them how much they've really accomplished, and some days how little, but most of the time it's like, wow, even though that was a tough day, I accomplished a lot. So the very last thing LeeAnn does is sends me a list of 10, 12, 15 things that she got done. Loops that she closed. She's the loop closer. So, you know, she said to me, and I knew that everybody's had the same experience. It's like, wow, I start to see that I'm more productive than I even thought. I had a really strong day, and it gives that person that feeling of achievement every single day. So, I mean, I would get an email from LeeAnn at 8:30 at night, 9 p.m. That's when her day ends. Saturday is no different than Sunday when you work for me. Like I study all weekend by the pool. I go out in the middle of the lake on the boat on Saturday and Sunday. So even though she's not officially working on a Saturday or a Sunday, I would just send dozens and dozens of ideas of loops opened that she would need to attack on Monday, on Tuesday. And you got to be a special, mentally tough kind of person, because even though she doesn't have to start those things on a Sunday or a Saturday, it's just you never get ahead. You know, relentless means you never get ahead. There's always the next idea, the next challenge, the next problem, and she dealt with all of it. She had to deal with all of it. And I think that that's why she has such great stick-to-itness, why she's got such outstanding grit. And like I said, when she decided to step aside almost 3 weeks ago, it was that rare case where she hasn't gone lame in her job. She, in fact, was at the peak, the absolute peak of her game. So I'll share with you a little story about LeeAnn and how it all came together, and I hope you take it to heart when it comes to hiring outstanding people. You know, I hear it all the time, there's no good people, and the millenniums and all this other horse shit. You need to be a recruiter. If you're a small business owner like me, or you're an entrepreneur, and you want to have a part-time employee or an executive assistant or a marketing director, or you want to attract somebody like Mark Andre, a top 1%er of 1%, then you got to be a friggin' recruiter. You got to be a Nick Saban. You got to be a Jim Harbaugh. You got to be, you know, like you need to be like the Bobby Bowden, the greatest college football recruiter of all time. And that's how I hired LeeAnn. That's how I hired Linda Bartlett. That's how I hired Stephanie Pender. So all of my 3 executive assistants. And it's interesting, they all lasted the same amount of time, which is a harsh reality. I mean, under 5 years, right? But literally calling it dog years is accurate thinking. It's not like, okay, I did that job for 3, 4, 5 years. It's like, it's almost like being, you know, Jimmy Johnson used to talk about how you never shut it off, how it just wears down, and that's the price of winning. So you're never going to find an executive assistant like LeeAnn on Monster.com or Indeed.com or any of those other swamps. That's where you find ordinary people. That's where you find mediocre people. So get it through your head that if you want to hire a championship level marketing director, technology director, whatever you want to call them, then you better be a recruiter like Bobby Bowden. you better have your antenna up all the time, and you need to be looking for not even good people. You need to be looking for absolute closers, cleaners, people who are just like, get it done, whatever it takes. That was the thing about LeeAnn. So she used to be our home cleaner. She cleaned the barber shop. She cleaned McLean Insurance. So I just knew LeeAnn casually because she worked for me. You know, I would say hello to her when I'd see her, but that was about it. And I always said to myself, because I am a recruiter, I'm always looking for great people. I go to the coffee shop, or somebody's cutting my grass, or any of this stuff. I'm not sitting there doom scrolling on my cell phone like you. I'm constantly recruiting. Where's the next person? Where's the next outstanding hire going to come from? So LeeAnn was this person. You know, Linda's still working for me. Then she resigns. She has enough of it. And then Marc-Andre takes it over, and, you know, he was grinding away, but I wanted him to do more technology. I want him to do bigger things in terms of his skill set. He's like 24 years old at the time, 23. So I'm sitting there going, where's the next person come from? So when Linda resigned and then Marc-Andre filled the gap for a few months, I'm like, I didn't hesitate. I didn't ask anybody. I didn't post some stupid ad. I just like, I called her up. I found out how to reach her, and I said, I want to sit down and talk to you about an opportunity. And I don't know if LeeAnn knew exactly what it was, but she's smart. She knows, like, you know, he's got something up his sleeve. So what was incredible is we literally met at world headquarters in Canada. You know, she showed up, she's dressed to the nines, she's got intelligent questions recorded, she's mentally present, she's ready to go. And we sit in these two chairs. It's almost like ESPN fireside chat or something, where two small business owners like me and her, we just sit down and we just talked about life. We talked about business, we talked about our kids, we talked about marriage, and then we talked about the opportunity. You know, are you interested in this position, badass bitch in charge? Is it something that you're interested in, or is it something that's not your cup of coffee? And it was interesting because she loves a challenge, right? I know how to recruit people, and this is not my first rodeo when it comes to attracting the best of the best. So when I laid that challenge out for her, she's like, you know what? I have a great job, Michael. I have a great income. I have my own company. I have a job that pays me good money. But she said, you know, she looks at me and she says, I'm bored. I'm not bored with my company, but I'm bored with my job. And she said, I need a challenge. And I said, you know what? There's going to be days where you're not going to like this job very much. And there's going to be days where you won't like me very much. But I said, it's like I said to my wife, Krista, when I asked her to marry me, I said, I can't guarantee you rainbows and unicorns, but I can guarantee you it'll never, ever be boring. And my wife brought that up 11 years later the other day. So I think that LeeAnn, it was the same way. It was like she can't refuse a challenge. And she took it head on. And it takes a lot to leap when you have a small business and you have this secure second job that's a paycheck and a good one. But she went against everything that most people in her life would say, you know, this is not the safe route. The safe route is status quo. The safe route is the normie route is to just keep doing what you're doing. But she's a winner, right? And she couldn't refuse. And so to her credit, it was all about then agreeing on money. I was like, I wasn't going to invest that much money, but if this is the difference between you taking the job and not, I'm happy to pay you what you're worth. So we didn't have hardly any negotiation. It wasn't about money. It was about do you want to take on this dog years job? And so she was working for me maybe 3 or 4 weeks later, and the rest is history. She learned the physical print newsletter business. She learned the email business. She learned how the Telegram business. She learned the mastermind business. She learned the Zoom call business. She learned it all. Absolutely direct response. She learned who, Bill Glazier was, and John Carlton and Gary Halbert, and you just go down the list. So like I said, she came into what most people would consider a private secret society, and she thrived for years. And I think that there's one lesson in this for me and for you watching this video. If you're gonna hire great people, you gotta recruit them. Number one, you gotta recruit them, and you gotta keep them in the bullpen, okay? I'm in a situation now where Mark and I will have to look in the bullpen. Who's up next? And I think the reality is some people have an executive assistant for 25, 30 years, but that's not me. That hasn't been my experience. Mine has been 4 and 5 years, and then they're done. You have an expiry date where they're like, I don't need this anymore. And I don't blame Linda, I don't blame Stephanie, and I don't blame LeeAnn. It's all consuming. It takes over your life. It takes over your personal life. You become addicted to the wins. You become addicted to the losses. You become addicted to the struggle. And you become part of a world where you almost can't relate any longer to anybody else who's a normie. And I know LeeAnn has gone through that. I went through it. Marc-Andre went through it, where the more you're in a badass world, the less you can relate to other people. And my dad has lived that for 90 years, where you're in the wrong room most of the time. You don't have anything in common with friends or high school chums or any of these people. And it just gets, the distance just goes more and more as you do what LeeAnn did, which was, you get in the best physical shape of your life. You get in the best mental shape of your life. You're making good money. You're hanging around champions. You're immersed in winning. And all of a sudden, every day, you're becoming a bit more of a high performance person, like a top 1%er. And all of a sudden, you don't have anything in common with normies. One of the things probably the thing that I admire the most about LeeAnn, and I've mentioned this to her a couple times, is something completely different. She, in her world, about 2 or 3 years ago, she decided to start focusing on significance and service and building her badass legacy. Even though she's still a young woman, she started to see all these men that I get the privilege of working with, who are, they're serving other people. Their life is about significance, and they really, they want to be remembered more than 20 minutes after their funeral. And she did the most incredible thing, is she took her niece under her wing, and she actually moved her in her house, the whole thing. And she literally took her niece under her wing and started teaching her about entrepreneurship, about winning. And it's made such an incredible difference, her sharing these kind of things, not just with her niece, but with her own children. But man, oh man, like this, her niece had never been on a plane before. And LeeAnn brought her here to Naples on the private jet I chartered for them. LeeAnn, came with my mom and dad. She brought her kids, she brought her niece, and now her niece is in her first year of business college. That doesn't happen without a role model like LeeAnn. That doesn't happen. Like, her niece helped that newsletter you have, her niece stuffed that. The handwritten envelopes you have, her niece stuffed that. Like, not only telling her, but showing her what a small business looks like on a kitchen table. and then opening her eyes and bringing her, a small town kid like I was, to a place like Naples on a private jet. That's the kind of stuff that changes the direction of a person's life. I mean, I didn't know what to dream about until I realized that there were these other places. There were places like Naples. There were people that made more than 40 grand a year. And that's the gift she's giving her niece and her children, is like, you know what? You can do this. You can build the life of your dreams, not somebody else's dreams, not her dreams, not my dreams, but you can literally build a badass world of your choosing. And that's what she's done for her niece. And like I said, she's in business college now. She's learning about marketing. But you know, that isn't going to be 1% of what she's learning by being around her badass aunt. Are you kidding me? More is caught than taught. More is caught than taught. Her children, her niece, what do they see? They see somebody who's gotten themselves in the best physical shape of their lives. They're seeing somebody who's getting off medications. They see somebody who's journaling, who's writing, who's making money, who's serving other people, different attitude, different mindset, the whole thing. And more is caught than taught. That stuff, whether it's a good example in this world or a bad example, it's contagious. And she has that example that's positive and contagious for all the people in her world. It's almost like, you know what? If my aunt can do that or my mom can do that, hell, I can do that. And we need more of that in this badass world. So, I'll leave you with the great Scotty Bowman story that was told to me by the great Guy Lafleur. I hired the Montreal Canadiens alumni about a decade ago to come to our small community, and we had all the Montreal Canadian Stanley Cup retirees for a game. We packed the place, and Guy Lafleur was the headliner, of course, and he was coaching with my dad. And I was talking to Guy at the dinner after, and he said, Michael, I said, tell me about Scotty Bowman. I said, you won 5 straight Stanley Cups. You are the greatest legacy in NHL history. I said, tell me about playing for the greatest pro sports coach in history, the great Scotty Bowman. I think Scotty, between Montreal and Pittsburgh and Detroit, I think Scotty has 11 or 12 rings, something like that. So he looks at me and he says, Michael, he says, let me tell you about all you need to know about Scotty. The greatest, winningest coach in NHL sports history, some people think. He said, we hate it. We hate it, that son of a bitch. He goes 364 days a year. We hate it, the ground that he walked on. But he said, you know what? He said, one day a year, we love that man. One day a year, we love that man. And I said, really? And he said, yeah. Guess what day that was? And I said, I'm not sure. And he said, the day of the Stanley Cup parade. He said, we knew we had to deal with the devil. We knew that he would push us to the brink. We knew that, we were going to have to do certain things to get the result we wanted. And like all the greats, the Bobby Knights, the Tom Landrys, the Jimmy Johnsons, you just go through the list. He says, we hated that SOB for 364 days a year, but we sure as hell loved him when we took that parade downtown as Stanley Cup champions. So I can relate to that as a former minor pro coach. I can relate to that as an amateur hockey coach, and I can relate to it as a entrepreneur. I've made a lot of mistakes with employees in the past, and LeeAnn is no different. But you know what? She's got thick skin. She's mentally tough, and she was able to get better and better. You want to talk about 0.001% better, like all the fake gurus talk about getting 1% better, all these so-called experts on anti-social media. They don't know fuck all about getting better. First of all, I don't care if you're Tom Brady. I don't care if you're Patrick Mahomes. I don't care if you're Michael Jordan. I don't care who you think you are. You ain't getting 1% better every day. You're not improving 365 days. Take it from a guy who's dealt with billionaires, millionaires, Hall of Famers since I was a little kid. Ain't nobody on this planet getting 1% better. But you do have a lot of cleaners and warriors and champions like LeeAnn who got that 0.001% better every day. That's my goal. That was her goal. That tiny, tiny little bit better every day. Like chip away at it, chip away at it. Pound the rock, pound the rock. 3 steps forward, 2.5 back, that kind of thing. But it's just amazing what can happen when you hire and recruit outstanding people. So that's it. I don't have any more stories. I could shoot 10 videos about this, but I just wanted to let you know how grateful I am, and how proud I am, and how thankful I am for LeeAnn Brennan coming into my badass world over the last number of years. And I couldn't have done it without her. Marc-Andre and I couldn't have done it without her. And if she's impacted your life, I'm going to give you her email. You can send her a personal note. It would be very nice. Pay it forward. LeeAnn's email, I'll put it below, but it's LeeAnn. You spell LeeAnn, LeeAnn, at badassmillionaire.com. That's LeeAnn at badassmillionaire.com. And her email link is below. It'd be sure nice to give a person who deserves some good energy and some good wishes, because whatever she does in the future, I have no clue. She's going to kick ass and she's going to take names. Trust me when I say that. I don't call many people badasses. To me, it's the ultimate compliment. When I was coaching amateur hockey with my championship Blue Wings, some of the players, my captain would lean over the boards the odd time we'd be in a game, and he'd lean over and like the other team's best player went by. The best player in the league. I'm talking about, the Michael Jordan of our hockey league. And he'd make a play, and my captain would look back at me and he'd say, "That kid's badass. That kid's badass." And I never forgot that. And that's why I named this company Badass Millionaire. That's why I call it Badass Brotherhood. The ultimate compliment is most people don't even know what a badass is. Okay? A badass who's somebody, no matter what the naysayers say, no matter how the deck is stacked against you, no matter how tough a life you've had, no matter how many people don't believe in you, no matter how big the mountain, they find a way to win. They find a way to win. And badasses serve other people along the way. They have a life of significance, not just money. And they leave things better than they found them, right? LeeAnn has left things better than she found them. That's a badass, leaving things better than you found them. And you want to be a badass, you need grit, you need a mentality of, you know what, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. The way you talk, the way you dress, your attitude, everything. The way you do one thing is the way you do everything. And man, oh man, like I said, I don't call many people badasses because most people ain't even close. Most people are normies. Most people are tomato cans. Most people are mediocre at best. LeeAnn Brennan, my badass bitch in charge. Badass. Badass champion. Badass queen. If she served you in any significant way, you can email her today at the email below. 2 words that change my life. 2 words that will change yours. Be relentless.